Greetings, everyone. Step 1 in my project is to familiarize ourselves with the environment of Stardew Valley. This means we're going to take an overview look at the game, its people, the country, the war, and get everyone up to date with who is what and where. This video is going to be broken down into 2 parts. The first part, we're going to be taking a look at the world itself. The next part, we're going to be taking a look at the actual residents of Stardew Valley. Everyone on board? Got it. Good. Let's get started. Everything in the game takes place here in the Ferngill Republic. More specifically, most of the game takes place here in Stardew Valley, naturally. And even more specifically, this town here, called Pelican Town. It's a small collective-based community where everyone does their own thing and kind of stays sustained by means the game doesn't really explain. Our next step here is to take a look at the Pelican Town region itself. Here is Pelican Town. Mostly everyone in the game lives within the confines of this community. This is Cindersapp Forest. This is where Marnie, Shane, Jas, Leah, the wizard, and the Hat and Mouse live. You can find a lake here to fish, as well as an entrance to the sewers, and on the far western side, there's a secret entrance to the secret woods. This is the farm. In the crossover, it is named Evergreen Farm, and inhabited by the story's main protagonist, Farmer Jesse. In the game, this is where you would grow crops, raise livestock, and generally make your living. Here, to the north of the farm is the backwoods. It's essentially just a shortcut to the mountains. This here is the mountains. Robin, Demetrius, Maru, Sebastian, Linus, Marlin, and Gil live here. You can find another lake for fishing here, as well as eventually gain access to the mines and the quarry to get all your metallic needs. Okay, now for the big one. Pelican Town itself. Pierre, Caroline, Abigail, Harvey, George, Evelyn, Alex, Gus, Mary Lewis, Emily, Haley, Jody, Sam, Vincent, Ken eventually, Gunther, and Clint live here. Morris also can be found here. This is the hub of Stardew Valley, where you can buy from the general store, Joja Mart, Harvey's Clinic, or even have a festival here. Down at the beach, south of the Pelican Town area, Elliot and Willy live here. You have access to seawater critters from the ocean and the night market in the winter here. You also have access to the mermaid pendant, which you can use to marry a bachelor or bachelorette. Okay, now that we have the world itself out of the way, let's take a more in-depth look at the main characters. I'm going to be leaving out these characters, as the roles aren't as significant to the crossover story as they are in-game, so bear with me here. What I've decided to do is use descriptions from the dev update number 12 for each bachelor and bachelorette character, as I believe the game should speak for itself regarding its own people. There are a few that I'll have to do on my own, however. First up is Abigail. Abigail lives at the general store with her parents. She sometimes fights with her mom, who worries about Abigail's alternative lifestyle. Her mom has the following to say: "I wish Abby would dress more appropriately and stop dyeing her hair blue. She has such a wonderful natural hair color, just like her grandmother did. Oh, and I wish she'd find some wholesome interest instead of this occult nonsense she's into." You might find Abigail alone in the graveyard, or maybe out in a rainstorm looking for frogs. Second on our list, we have Haley. Being wealthy and popular throughout high school has made Haley a little conceited and self-centered. She has a tendency to judge people for superficial reasons, but is it too late for her to discover a deeper meaning to life? Is there fun, open-minded young woman hidden within that candy-coated shell? Next up on our list, we have Maru. Growing up with a carpenter and a scientist for parents, Maru acquired a passion for creating gadgets at a young age. When she isn't in her room fiddling with tools and machinery, she sometimes does odd jobs at the local clinic. Friendly, outgoing, and ambitious, Maru would be quite a lucky match for a lonely newcomer such as yourself. Can you win her heart? Or will she slip through your fingers and disappear from your life forever? Next, we have Leah. Leah lives alone in a small cabin just outside of town. She loves to spend time outside foraging for a wild meal or simply enjoying the gifts of the season. She's a talented artist with a large portfolio of work, yet she's too nervous to display it to the public. Maybe you can give her a little confidence boost. Next, we have Penny. Penny lives with her mom, Pam, in a little trailer by the river. While Pam is out carousing at the saloon, Penny quietly tends to her chores in the dim, stuffy room she's forced to call home. She is shy and modest, without any grand ambitions for life other than settling in and starting a family. She likes to cook, although her skills are questionable, and read books from the local library. Next, we have Sebastian. Sebastian is a rebellious loner who lives in his parents' basement. He is Maru's older half-brother. It feels like his sister gets all the attention and adoration while he is left to rot in the dark. He tends to get deeply absorbed in computer games, comic books, and sci-fi novels, and will sometimes spend great lengths of time pursuing these hobbies alone in his room. He can be a bit unfriendly to people he doesn't know. Could a charming new farmer cultivate the wasteland of his heart? Who knows? Alex. Alex loves sports and hanging out at the beach. He is quite arrogant and brags to everyone that he's going to be a professional athlete. Is his cockiness just a facade to mask his crushing self-doubt? Is he using his sports dream to fill the void left by the disappearance of his parents? Or is he just a brazen youth trying to look cool? Elliot. Elliot lives alone in a cabin on the beach. He is a writer who dreams of one day writing a magnificent novel. He is a sentimental romantic with a tendency to go off into flowery, poetic tangents. When he can afford it, he enjoys a strong beverage at the saloon. Could a humble farmer such as yourself be the inspiration Elliot is looking for? There's only one way to find out. Harvey. Harvey is the town doctor. He's a little old for a bachelor, but he is a kind heart and a respected position in the community. He lives in a small apartment above the medical clinic, but spends most of his time working. You can sense a sadness about him, as if there's something he's not telling you. Sam. Sam is an outgoing, friendly guy who is brimming with youthful energy. He plays guitar and drums and wants to start a band with Sebastian as soon as he can get enough songs together. However, he does have a habit of starting ambitious projects and not finishing them. Sam is a little stressed about the impending return of his father, who's been away for years due to his line of work. Okay, so the dev update number 12 didn't feature Emily or Shane, so I'll have to use myself for those two. Starting with Shane. Shane works at, or used to work at, JojaMart, depending on when we're talking about. He suffers from alcoholism and depression, so he can often be an unhappy or rude person to talk to. Now we have Emily. Emily is a kind and caring person. She has a deep interest in the superstitions, similar to astrology fanatics in our world. She loves to make her own clothes, but usually has a hard time coming around cloth as it is hard to find in the valley. Okay, now that the people that the players can marry in-game are out of the way, let's step into a few of the others. Starting with Mayor Lewis. Lewis is the mayor of Pelican Town and has been so for 20 years. He enjoys his job as mayor and is generally very kind to everyone there. He is helpful, sending letters in the mail to the player for reminders of festivals and events. Marnie. Marnie lives on a ranch in the Cindersapp Forest. She's generally very sweet towards the player. She sells livestock and equipment to sustain them to the player. Pam, on the other hand, is an alcoholic, similar to Shane. She can often be found spending her days in the Stardrop Saloon. Gus. Gus is the owner of the Stardrop Saloon. He is an expert chef, often cooking the feasts during the festivals. He knows the comings and goings of the villagers in Pelican Town, as he hears just about everything that comes through his doors. Kent. Kent is a war vet who is home from fighting the Gatoro Empire overseas. He suffers from PTSD caused by his time fighting and his incarceration in the Gatoro POW camps. He still has a deep fear of war, as he can be found nervous on open fields and the popping of popcorn. Robin and Demetrius. Robin owns a carpenter's shop in the mountains of Stardew Valley. She is generally kind and happy to help the player as a hired construction woman. Demetrius is a scientist who enjoys spending his days researching the plant and animal life of the valley. Willy. Willy is a fisherman who lives on the pier of the beach. He enjoys the sea and sells the player fishing poles and tackle. Wizard. The wizard, also known as M. Rasmodius, lives on the farthest western side of the Cindersapp Forest in a large stone brick tower. He understands the elementals in the language of the Junimos. Clint. Clint is the blacksmith of the valley. He helps the player with upgrading their farming tools and can also buy raw geological materials from the player. Now that we have the people out of the way, let's take a moment to analyze the Ferngill Republic itself. What is the government of this nation? Well, the name itself implies a pretty big hint. We have a republic of some sort, but right now are we talking about a republic like the United States of America, or are we talking about something more corrupt, like a banana republic? First of all, let's take a look at the economy. It's obviously very capitalistic. Goods and services can be bought and sold locally, like from Gus or Pierre, or at a large corporation like Joja. The currency seems to be pretty inflated, as simple items like beer cost about 300 gold. There appears to be some sort of freedoms as well, as independent television stations are available to watch. Do note that the governor comes down to Stardew Valley for the luau every summer, and he doesn't even bring any sort of protection. So, looking at the evidence from the game, I think it boils down to two different options. The two options that I'm talking about are Confederal Republic or Federal Republic. My best assumption would probably be a Confederal Republic. Let me explain the difference between the two for those unaware so you can understand better. A federal republic, also known as a federation, is a system of government where the federal power is at a higher legislation than the state power. Examples of this would be like the United States of America or maybe even Germany. Each independent state can pass its own laws that are unique to the state and its interests, but at the end of the day, any law passed at the federal power is law to every state in the Union. A confederal republic, on the other hand, also known as a confederacy or confederation, is the opposite. Each independent state is like its own independent nation, as the state laws are more supreme than the federal laws. In terms of foreign trade, national emergency, and other related things at a national level, the states can come together as a whole, but at the end of the day, they are essentially fully independent sovereigns. Examples of this would be like the Confederate States of America, or the United States of America when the Articles of Confederation were the main governing document until 1789. Now, why do I believe the Ferngill Republic is a confederation? The media and influence the rest of the country has on what we see from Stardew Valley is pretty low. The only reason this is significant to our hypothesis is because this wouldn't be the case for a federal republic. The map I've shown you displays the capital here, but in the game, the capital or the president/prime minister is never even mentioned once. Not to mention the rest of the entire country has zero mention. The most we see of the outside world is Zuzu City and Grampleton, and the former is mentioned much more than the latter. The highest authority figure in the game that we ever see happens to also be the highest authority figure in any American state, the governor. Anyways, that's just my view on things. I'd love to hear your feedback and criticism on anything in the video. Remember, this is just a synopsis of the story and my view on different things. Anyways, and as always, thank you for watching.